Hello and welcome to the Wellness Connection podcast. I'm your host, Fiona Kane. Today, there's some news that I wanted to talk about. One of the things in particular is that the first of its kind, a detransitioner, which is someone who thought that they were trans and then realized they were not and wanted to go back to being the original sex that they were born as, which you can't change anyway, but that's beside the point. They won $2 million in damages. This is US. This is in the US, so $2 million US dollars in a medical malpractice lawsuit. This is amazing because this is where it will all change. Because ideology will not stand up to lawsuits, and when people start getting sued and start losing a lot of money, they're going to stop harming children. So the detransitioner's name is Fox Varian, and they won a medical malpractice lawsuit in which she sued the psychologist and surgeon who approved her for a double mastectomy, which in trans terminology they call that top surgery. So they always give things like nice little names that don't sound bad because they don't want to make it sound like they're harming people when they are. So she had that double mastectomy at age 16. Her mother also testified that she'd been against the surgery but was pressured into agreeing because she was told that this is what they do, right? So what they do is they say in every situation, they say to the parent, do you want, in this case, it's a girl, so do you want a dead daughter or a live son? They always say they're going to end their life, right? And the kids are actually taught to say that as well because they know if they say that, they'll get the surgery that they want. So they always say this, and even though the data doesn't show that, the data actually shows you're more likely to end your life if you do go ahead with the surgery than if you don't. But they don't tell you that. The mother was pushed into it for this reason. So in this article, I'm writing here, J.K. Rowling has been a really big, a great voice in this to try and stand up for children and stand up for women in all of these issues in regards to this ideology. And she said here, as the floodgates open and more detransitioners sue the clinicians who subjected them to an unregulated medical experiment, gender identity activists will almost certainly continue to ignore any evidence that fails to support their preferred narrative. They'll keep insisting that hardly any transition people regret their irreversible procedures, that hormones and puberty blockers are of proven benefit, and that minors who denied these treatments will end their lives. All of that is a lie. So the WPATH conference, WPATH are the World Professional Association of Transgender Health, something like that. And that when you look at who they are, they're not a proper medical association. They're actually just a whole bunch of activists that are LARPing as some sort of medical association. But anyway, at a British endocrinology consultant, Leighton Seal, admitted at this WPATH conference in 2021 that we are doing procedures here where we don't have outcome data. A woman from Utah said she felt gender clinicians like her were making it up as they went along because I feel like we're all just winging it, and which is okay, winging it too. Maybe we can just wing it together. So this is at a conference they're saying, we're just winging it. We don't really know. We don't have the data. This is at a conference. They're admitting that there's no data for this, or the data they do have is not good. What J.K. Rowling said, which I totally agree with, she said, this will go down in history as one of the worst medical scandals of all time. Adults inside and outside the medical profession sold troubled young people like Varian the idea that all of their complex trauma would be resolved by removing healthy body parts. As more and more detransitioners arrive in court, the public will learn the full extent of the harm done to kids in the name of an ideology. There was one doctor, I think it was Dr. Joanna, I can't remember, she's a big WPATH doctor, who said, oh, well, they can just get the boobs replaced. You can't replace, okay, you can get a boob job. That's not the same as replacing what you had. You'll never be able to breastfeed, and you'll never have that physical feeling back. And it's not the same. Oh, you just get it, as if that's a great solution for traumatizing these young people and mutilating them. Just ridiculous. So here we go. So it says, yeah. Clinicians performing these treatments will go down in history as barbarous activists who betrayed a sacred oath to do no harm. First, do no harm. That's it. First, do no harm. But we should never forget how many people outside the medical profession urged these young people on, gleefully assuring them that anyone advising caution was an evil bigot. There are people in elitist professions like publishing and academia, not to mention politicians and celebrities with young fan bases, who did all they could to champion the idea of gender identity and kept pushing it, even as evidence of harm mounted. They're just as culpable as the clinicians, too lazy to think more deeply than the fashionable mantras that got them all of their social media likes, too arrogant to look at evidence from anyone outside their political bubble. They've slurred whistleblowers and attacked anyone with valid questions, and in doing so, they've created a cultural climate with which this appalling tragedy could, without which this appalling tragedy could not have taken place. Never forget, because only learning the lesson we can stop this happening again. So that's what J.K. Rowling has said. I completely agree with her. These lawsuits are going to be what ends this ultimately. Sometimes it comes down to money and it comes down to people losing their careers, and that's what turns things around. You would be, and I've talked about it before, but there's in gender medicine, and in medicine in particular, there's a chain of okay, so a patient will go through a chain of doctors and professionals. So they might start with, they go to their GP, they say, I think I'm this sex or that sex, whatever. And then they will go to, they will be sent to a psychologist or a psychiatrist, probably a psychologist, I think. And the psychologists have to affirm. They get in trouble for not affirming. And affirming just means, oh, yes, you definitely are the wrong sex, not like you definitely were born in the wrong body, instead of, well, let's explore that, right? So they're absolutely forced and coerced into affirming, and the ones who don't affirm, they end up in a lot of trouble. So there's a real issue there that they really pretty much just this whole ideology says you must affirm. If you don't affirm, the person's going to off themselves. So instead of saying let's explore why and let's look at the fact that you've got all these comorbidities to being mentally unwell, and let's look at that and let's explore all that, and then we'll see where it takes us. But no, it's got to be affirm only. And so then they go back to the GP and they've got a letter from the psych saying that, they definitely are born in the wrong body. Then the doctor sends them off to the endocrinologist who will give them the hormones, or the doctor might give them the hormones. So I think they might have to go to the endocrinologist first. I can't remember. And so the endocrinologist believes, well, the doctor did their due diligence, the psych did their due diligence. Well, of course, they've all checked this out. This is a real situation of someone who's born in the wrong body, which is not true. And so then they go ahead and they prescribe, and then next step they go to the surgeons, and the surgeons assume that everyone before them did their due diligence, right? So a lot of these, I've listened to a lot of the testimonials of a lot of these detransitioners, and in many cases, not one person anywhere, not one adult has stopped them. Not one adult has put on the brakes. Or their parents may have tried to, but they wouldn't listen to them. But not one adult in the medical profession, in the medical and psychology profession, has put the brakes on. Not one has said, look, let's just give this some time. Let's just explore other things. And also let's look at the consequences. They don't get told the consequences. And if they are told, they're told. They might very quickly be told, oh, it might affect your fertility or it might affect your sexual function. But I don't think when you listen to them talk about their experience, they very clearly didn't understand, didn't know, and actually that's one of the things in the WPATH files when they got leaked a few years ago, is they actually had these gender doctors saying, "Oh, ha ha ha, they don't even understand. They don't understand like." We're doing their surgery to these children, and they don't actually understand the consequences. So they were really clear that they knew that these children didn't understand. So they know that the children don't understand the consequences. They don't explain the consequences properly. They tell them that they're definitely born in the wrong body and they could never be happy and never have a good life unless they change sex in inverted commas, because you can't actually do that. You can just damage a whole person a whole lot trying to do that. And so that's the story that they're told, and it's going to fix all of your problems, all of those mental health issues you're having, all of those doubts about your body, all of those issues that you're having. We'll just fix it by changing your sex. So they just put down this one path only. And so many of these detransitioners say they were never ever, nowhere along the way someone said let's put the brakes on. And many of these detransitioners also say they expressed doubts. And when they went to the doctors and said they expressed doubts, they were told, "Oh no, you're that's wrong. You need to have this. You should go ahead and do this." So even when they expressed doubts themselves, and you'll be seeing this more and more as more of these court cases come through, which I'm really, really happy to see, because we really have to we've got to stop this barbary. And in the UK, they wanting to do a trial now. They stopped this gender medicine barbary on children, and now they wanted to do a trial. We already know, we've got the data, we've got the CAS review, we've got quite a few different reviews now that are very clear about the damage that's done to children with this. We don't need another trial. Now, so the other thing that I wanted to talk about as well. So that was that one, and yeah, I'm just so happy that I'm happy that these lawsuits are going through, because it's the only way that this is going to change ultimately, because there's still Hollywood actors and stuff that are going out there, and musicians and stuff encouraging children, encouraging young people to believe they're in the wrong body. This must be one of the most cruel things. How, like, to tell someone that the only way they could be happy, the only way that they can survive, in a lot of cases they're telling us the only way they can survive. You won't survive, you will off yourself if you don't change, if you don't get your sex changed, And so selling them something that they're never really going to have, that's never really going to happen, is the only way that they could be happy, or they could not off themselves. Is that the most cruel thing? And so many of these things are targeted at, it's like young women who are what we used to call my brain's not doing it. Young women who just like to dress up more like boyish or whatever. So, or young men who are a bit more feminine. And these are the people that, this is the new conversion therapy, where they're actually telling gay people that they must be born in the wrong body if they're a man who's effeminate, or a woman who's a bit butch or whatever. It's just so cruel. The other thing, I'm low in time here, so there's only one other thing I'm going to share. So what's happened too is the American Society of Plastic Surgeons have now come out against gender affirming surgeries for anyone under 19 years old, making them the first US-based major medical association to officially narrow their guidance. And see, once the money starts, once they start getting sued, once it starts costing them money, suddenly they realize the reality of the situation. So that's really, really good to see as well. First major medical group opposes gender transition surgeries. You're going to see more and more of this now that there's a money issue has come along. One other thing I wanted to mention as well, something I railed a lot about a couple of years ago. I don't know if I did so much on this podcast, because I did on other podcasts, because I wasn't talking so much about these topics then on here, but I was very wildly talking about it elsewhere, is during the Olympics in Paris, when we had that Imane Khalif, a boxer, and there was another boxer as well. I can't remember the name, the other boxer. But anyway, these two boxers were clearly both people with disorders of sex difference, not trans, but not women. But they were playing in women's sports, and Imane, the Algerian boxer, actually won the gold medal, and I think the other one might have won as well. I can't remember now. But anyway, people were celebrating these men punching women out, and I was shouting from the rooftops at the time that this is ridiculous. This is a man, and I got absolutely that's the most hate I've ever gotten actually, and I've lost friendships and all sorts of things. The most hate I've ever gotten for saying that a main caliph is a man, because he is, and now he's admitted that he has male chromosomes. He is a man. He's someone with disordered sex differences, and it was confusing when he was born. I understand that he probably didn't know he was a man. It's a whole complicated topic, so I won't go into it right now. I don't have time. But he probably didn't understand that he was a man until he went through puberty. But he's known since he went through puberty he's a man, and anyone with eyes can see that. And he's finally admitted it. And so, yeah, where's all the people that were bullying me and someone started stalking me a bit online and attacking me, and all the people who were telling me I was a bigot a few years ago for just saying the truth. That's a man. Man shouldn't be in women's sports. That's a whole other topic, and I will be exploring that more in the future because I think it's worthy of exploring. Anyway, look, that's all I have time for today, but I'm just really excited that the tide is turning now. Finally, all of these doctors who are involved in this will find out that it's not okay. They will finally stop things, and hopefully all these Hollywood types will stop encouraging these children. We've still got a way to go with this, but we will get there and stop children being harmed. They don't understand the consequences of this stuff, and when all the adults around them, particularly adults in the medical and psychological medical community, are supporting this BS, how are they supposed to know, right? So we need to protect the children, first do no harm, and let's protect children. Once upon a time, they were basic. That was basic. It's pretty basic. And I don't know, when I grew up thinking that they were pretty basic things, and now things that were pretty basic are no longer. Anyway, I will leave it there. This is where I like to have real conversations about things that matter. I wanted to update you on that news this week. I'm so excited about that, and I'll explore some of these topics a little bit deeper in the future, and talk to you again next week. Please like, subscribe, share, all that stuff, and I'll talk to you again soon. Thanks. Bye.